properties of irrational numbers. So what are the different properties of irrational numbers? So please do understand, I'm excluding 0. Okay, I'm not, 0 is an irrational number. 0 by 1, that is a irrational number or rational number. It is a rational number, right? 0 is a rational number, not an irrational number, because it can be written in the form p by q, correct? But I cannot write 0 in the denominator because division by 0 is not possible. Please understand that I cannot write 0 in the denominator because division by 0 is not possible. Okay, so let's try to understand what is the properties of these numbers, real numbers. Okay, I'm just writing properties of irrational numbers. Why? Because you have to understand what happens when we use irrational numbers. So when we use two rational numbers, what are we getting? If I'm using two rational numbers, I will always get a rational number, right? Very simple logic. So let's try to use two rational numbers. I have 2 into 1 or 2 by 3 into 4 by 5, 2 by 3 divided by 5 by 6, anything, okay? You'll always end up getting a multiply them, divide them, or subtract them, you'll always get a rational number, right? This we know. That's why I said what happens with irrational number, okay? Rational number we already know, because when we multiply, we'll get a rational number, right? When we divide, we'll get a rational number. When we subtract, we'll get a rational number. So rational with rational is always rational. So I'll give a simpler trick. Rational, do any operation with a rational. You can write this down in a book. It'll get a rational number. Okay, now what happens? Irrational number with irrational. So I'll give you a few examples here. Let's say irrational number 3 by 5. Okay, right? Irrational number is 3 by 5. Okay, I can take, okay, irrational with irrational, right? Sorry, that is a rational number 3 by 5. So I'll take an irrational number. Which is an irrational number? I have root 2, root 3, correct? All these are irrational numbers. So what happens? If I take root 2, right? If I take root 2, what would I get? Root 2 into root 2. Root 2 into root 2, it will become root of 4. What is root of 4? 2, correct? 2. Same way, root 2 into root 3, what would I get? I'll get root 6, right? So this is a rational number. This is an irrational number, correct? So both we are getting. So what can we say? If I'm using irrational with an irrational number, we'll end up getting, it can either be rational or irrational. Okay, please write this down. There are only 3 properties. Okay, so whatever you're doing multiplication, division, either of them, no problem. You'll end up getting a rational or irrational. I can do root 2 minus root 2, which is 0, right? 0 is what? 0 by 1, which is a rational number. So irrational with irrational will either be a rational number or an irrational number. Now let's do the third one, the last one. Okay, what is the third one? Here, rational with irrational. What happens with the rational with irrational? So if you do rational with irrational, okay, both of them separate. Rational with irrational, excluding 0. What I'm saying? Excluding the usage of 0 as a rational number, I'll always end up getting a irrational number. So I'll give you an idea. For example, 2 plus root 3. Okay, what happens here? Root 3 is 1.732 and it keeps on going. 2 is what? 2 is 2 only. So what happens? 2 plus 1, 3. So the decimal expansion part, what happens? It is remaining the same, right? So it becomes an irrational number. That is the logic here. So 2 plus 1.73 and keeps on going. Different numbers. Okay, it is not the same, different numbers. And this logic, what happens? The whole part gets added. But what happens to the other part? The other part, expansion part, decimal part is as it is, right? The decimal part is as it is. So this is what you need to understand. So what is very simple, whenever you see a rational irrational number being multiplied, divided or subtracted. So I can give multiple examples. If I have 2 root 3, same scenario. What happens? 2 root 3 is an irrational number, right? Or root 3 by 2. Is that an irrational number? You might see, oh, p by q, but this is not p. Is this p? This is not p, right? Root 3 by 2. Is root 3 p? No, p should be an integer. But root 3 is a irrational number, right? So since irrational by irrational, it will become irrational. Okay. So always remember that whenever you're seeing rational and irrational, any operation taking place, what should you understand? You have to understand that rational with irrational will be an irrational number. So all you need to understand is very simple. Just one thing, that is rational you do any operation with irrational number, you will always get a irrational number. And negative of a irrational number is what? It is -1 into irrational number, right? So that is rational into irrational, which is giving irrational number. Okay, simple logic. So all you need to remember is rational with an irrational number will give what? Will give irrational number. Okay, that's all you need to understand. The others are easy. Rational with irrational will be rational. Okay, and irrational with irrational will give irrational number or a rational number. It can be either. Okay, so this is what you need to learn. 3 of them. I'll just write once more so you get an idea of it. Please write it down. Okay, so here we go. First one, second. First, what did we learn? We learned about rational with rational. Rational, you do any operation with a rational number, you'll get a rational number. These are excluding zeros. Okay, I'm not taking a rational number to be 0 in any of the cases. Okay, so we have irrational with irrational. What do we get? We'll get it can be an irrational number or it can be a rational number. Then we have rational with irrational number. What do we get? We'll always get a irrational number. Okay, so this is what you need to remember. This is the trick to remember. Okay, so here we go. Arithmetic operation between numbers. So like I said, rational irrational will give an irrational number, right? So 2 into √3 is 2 √3, which is irrational. Rational irrational will give a rational or an irrational number, right? So √3 into √3 is 3, which is rational.